Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Order in court, silence please, for the Right Honourable Judge Mick Menas in The People versus James Gunn. Yes, today we're going to talk about James Gunn's historical tweets and discuss whether or not this means that he's the wrong person to be the co-chair of DC Studios. We'll also talk about the motivations of the people who keep on spreading kind of these historical tweets and keep on talking about these historical tweets and talk about their motivations as well. So look, the reason the Snyderverse stands are spreading their historical tweets, discussing James Gunn's historical tweets, isn't because they're morally outraged. It's because they're using it to put pressure on Warner Brothers Discovery and Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav to remove James Gunn as co-chair of DC Studios. Let's get that right. What you can't do is justify these historical tweets, everyone. There's no way they can be justified. They are what they are. They are horrific. They are immoral. And they are bad. And parents and uncles and aunts seeing these tweets should be absolutely horrified by them. But we are going to ask the question, what does this mean? Is this a bad look for Warner Brothers Discovery in the future of DC? There's a reason why Disney removed James Gunn originally from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and their company, because most of their content appeals to families and children. It was a bad look for them. The problem is they quickly discovered they couldn't make Guardians Volume 3 without James Gunn. So clearly there was an agreement to bring him back, and they had a mutual secret arrangement. You do this movie, then you go. We're cutting ties with you, and I think the feeling was absolutely mutual. But Warner Brothers jumped in there straight away as soon as he was fired and brought him on and said you could literally do anything you want. So were Warner Brothers wrong to do that? Was Toby Emmerich wrong to approach James Gunn and allow this to happen? Listen, there is a culture of child abuse in Hollywood, and it's been there since the beginning of, Tinseltown being formed and the industry being formed, but not just Hollywood, the entertainment industry in general. There's a culture of this. When you look at the Jimmy Savile situation as well, and that situation was covered up for decades. So there is a culture of this in the entertainment industry. What's interesting about this, the entertainment industry today is populated by the extreme left political views, progressives, you may call them woke or SJWs, whatever kind of term you have for them. So you're populated by these people who think they have the right moral world view, but in reality, the entertainment industry is populated by criminals and immoral people enacting immoral behavior, and they have the cheek to talk down to you and me about our conduct. They're constantly talking about toxic fandoms, but toxic fandoms are one thing. But this kind of thing is beyond any of that, but they try and, talk down to their customers, us. They hate straight white males, us, right, for being straight white males, even though most of them are straight white males. It's ironic. It's, the irony isn't lost on me. And irony is something I find really amusing. It's like when they talk about representation and inclusion. The entertainment industry is the least inclusive industry in the world. They literally only employ their own kind. Now, so basically when they are inclusive, it's only African Americans or black people with their DNA. And all you have to do is research the surnames to understand that. So it's a very corrupt, hypocritical industry. There's no question about that. Now, if the entertainment industry in Hollywood were, a stable, moral, uncorrupt industry, then James Gunn wouldn't be in his position at DC Studios in the first place. By God, he wouldn't have even had the opportunity to make any content in the entertainment industry. But guess what? The entertainment industry, Hollywood in general, isn't that type of, moral industry. There's so many grey areas in the entertainment industry, and there's a lot of bad things going on. Now, when I was growing up, they were still as bad as they are now, and this horrible, unethical behavior was there, but they didn't pretend to be morally virtuous. So instead of this moral virtue, they didn't admit who they were and what they were, but they also didn't deny it, and they also didn't talk to their customers like shit and keep on saying, hey, white man, women are better than men, women can't commit crimes, but men can, it's all men, and all this shit we get today, right? So because they just made their shit and then kept their mouth shut, even though you knew it was a horribly corrupt industry, when you think about the rumors of what, potentially Judy Garland went through on the set of The Wizard of Oz. I mean, it's disgusting, it's horrible. And, there's a lot of other things, like the kind of, costumes they were made to wear. And, a couple of actors even got really ill and had to be replaced. So the history of Hollywood isn't a good history. There is, as I say, there is a history of unethical conduct in Hollywood. And we're consuming them, knowing this, and giving them money because they give us something. Entertainment, escapism, art. And when they get it right, it's beautiful. But as I said the other day, there is no huge company in the world that hasn't got these morally grey areas. And if we were not to consume any of them, then the world would stand still. These are the realities of life. So no, I cannot sit here in front of this camera and say to you, or justify to you, that, there's nothing wrong with what James Gunn said. There is everything wrong in those historical tweets. And the question is, should he still be co-chair of DC Studios? The reality is, as I say, in a fair and just industry, no, he shouldn't be there. But the entertainment industry isn't a fair and just industry. It's full of hypocrisies, and it's constantly talking down to its audience and customers while they do disgusting, despicable things. But they talk about toxic fandoms and stuff like that. It's ironic. They talk about toxic fandoms when we're going against what they're trying to do, which is make money while, implementing their political worldviews. And the entertainment industry's political worldview is full of hatred for people like me and you, straight white males. It's the truth. They hate us. And their storytelling these days is full of hatred for us. They're the majority of their customer who buys the merch, buys the Blu-rays, loves them, loves what they do, stands them, and they abuse us for some reason, because they believe identity politics is the most important politics out there. So they're hypocrites at the end of the day. Now, the reason all this stuff about James Gunn is coming out now is James Gunn removing Henry Cavill as Superman. So Snyder fans are trying to create a situation that gives David Zaslav no choice but to remove him. They're trying to destabilize James Gunn's position at DC Studios. Will they? It's probably unlikely that Zaslav will remove Gunn unless the pressure gets so high. And this is why the Snyder fans keep on talking about the historical tweets and keep on reminding people of the historical tweets. It's not because they're morally outraged. They could be morally outraged, but that's not the reason they're doing this and they're putting this situation to the forefront. They are hoping that they create a critical mass of a situation that gives WB no choice but to remove him. But what would happen if he gets removed? Because there would be absolutely no reason to remove Peter Safran, because Peter Safran hasn't got any controversies surrounding him as far as we know. So what would change? I don't know what would change. What do the Snyderverse fans want? They want Mike DeLuca to run DC because they know Mike was going to greenlight, or actually did greenlight, a Man of Steel 2 and greenlit Henry Cavill being in the Black Adam post-credit scene. Mike DeLuca is the reason that happened. He is the only and the one reason that happened. So this is what the Snyder fans want. Now, I actually believe, even though I'm historical tweets aside, I think James Gunn is a very talented creative and can give us a great DC universe, and a successful one at that. Now, that's away from the historical tweets. That is my belief. So I believe he can do that. But there's no question about it. Mike DeLuca could have done something. Now, this is my belief about Henry Cavill. Probably, ultimately, eventually, it would have been the right thing to replace him as Superman. But I believe that what Mike DeLuca was attempting to do is give Henry one last hurrah, which was the Man of Steel sequel. It's what most Superman and DC fans and Snyder fans together have been fighting for since 2013, because we wanted to see that sequel. We wanted the continuing story of the Codex, of Kal-El having 1 billion, Kryptonian lives in him, right? And what would happen if they were extracted? It was a great concept by David Goyer, and we wanted to see the continuation of that story. I believe doing a Man of Steel 2, then replacing Cavill as Superman, was the right way to go. And by replacing him straight away as Superman, James Gunn has created a very difficult situation for himself and WB and DC Studios. Now, away from that, he was asked yesterday if there will be any studio interference with his plans for DC. And he said the only studio interference would be from him and Peter. And let me explain to you what he means by this. Basically, they are the studio. They are DC Studios. So the only interference will come if they don't like what a director's doing in a film, a TV show, or animation, or even if someone who's, designing a game, if they're not happy about it, they will interfere as DC Studios. They are running the narrative. So in that element, James Gunn and Peter Safran running DC Studios is a healthy situation, because you've got James Gunn who totally understands this world and this universe. But his historical tweets are absolutely the elephant in the room. As I say, I don't think there'll be a situation where he's removed because of them, unless the Snyderverse fans unearth new evidence against him that would absolutely get him fired, removed in his position, if that information was volatile enough. As I say, I'm an uncle. I'm a half decent human being. I'm not perfect, As all humans, we have our morally grey areas. I'm not perfect. And James Gunn certainly isn't perfect. The problem is people like him and the rest of the entertainment industry virtue signal and pretend they're so morally perfect. And they're not. If only they just didn't talk down to us and, create situations for themselves like this. All you had to do, James, was greenlight a Man of Steel 2. But of course, I'm not going to say, replacing Cavill straight off the bat is the wrong move. I just feel, out of respect for Henry, it probably would have worked out well. If they wanted the kind of a good relationship with the fans, especially the Snyder fans, giving Henry a Man of Steel 2 would have been a good idea. but would it have made money? Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know. It depends on the movie, but would people have come in their droves? Could a Man of Steel sequel make like $1 billion? I don't know. Potentially, looking at the first movie, you would say no. The film didn't even make 700 million. So, you know, when you look at the first Avatar, it was a record-breaking box office, and the sequel now is approaching $2 billion. So the audience liked the first movie for whatever reason, right? They did, no matter what people say, and they came back for more. It's kind of unlikely that an audience that was divided over a film is going to come out in their droves to watch the sequel. So James Gunn and Safran looked at it and said, we can't carry on with Henry Cavill. We're going to start anew here. We're going to start anew with a lot of these existing DC characters, and that's what they've decided to do. But the Snyderverse fans are a very vocal fandom, and you cannot stop them. They are there. They will continue to talk about these historical tweets, as I say, hoping they create a critical mass. Now, as immoral as James's historical tweets are, and they're really, really bad. There's no denying that. As far as they know, maybe ethical laws have been broken and moral laws have been broken, but I don't think actual laws have been broken. And until they are, and people deliver evidence on that, James Gunn is going nowhere. This has been Tuesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.